Well, don't back the cart up, Lawrence. Let's keep it moving forward. Welcome, folks, to the Squeaky Wheel. With me, as always, my very good friend, Lawrence, the President Gervais. Folks, I'm Ross Memphis Pambrun. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate your connection. Lawrence, we're going to celebrate the idea that it's coming up to Victoria Day, and I'm hoping our listeners out there are all planning on having some wonderful weekend with their family. It's going to be National Bike to Work Week as well. Now, that's always a challenge, I find, in Canada, because it could seemingly snow at the moment you get outside and you've decided you're going to ride to work. And it usually snows as soon as you decide you got to go home. So, folks, take that with a grain of salt. Try and get out there on National Bike to Work. And it's Date Your Mate Month. So, I think we're all a little guilty of the fact that we need to set up more dates with our spouses and make sure that we take that time. So make a note of that, folks. This is Date Your Mate Month. Lawrence, the iPod is pretty much coming to an end. I got probably not the first iPod. I think it was the second one. And it was pretty heavy, pretty thick. But at the time, it could hold 1,000 songs. I mean, I think your iWatch could probably hold 1,000 songs, maybe 10,000 songs. But the idea that you had this device that was portable, you could carry around with you rather than having to wear a CD Walkman or carry your cassette tape around, that you could get maybe 10 songs on. Did you have an early edition of the iPod? Because it's 20 years. So folks, you better hold on to whatever one you have, because they are starting to phase them out.
Well, I had a Walkman, a Discman, and then the iPod came on the scene. So I had one of those. But yeah, it was a revolution to have something so small, and you wondered how it stored all that music inside, but it did,
Yeah, I mean, we never really understood how tapes work, and we never really understood how CDs work, and yet none of us had any idea how you could put all of this information onto an iPod. And it almost seems silly. I mean, when they fired the first shuttle up to the moon, I think there's more technology in like amazing amount of technology in the first iPhone than was even in the first shuttle that went to the moon. So when these iPods started coming, it was like 1,000 songs. You could carry your whole repertoire of music everywhere you went. And yes, I remember having one, and you were still, it was a big device, and it was a heavy device, and you're carrying around essentially a large portable battery. But I will miss the good times that I had with it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when they first came out, how hard it was to get music on the thing. And then, you use up your memory, and then all of a sudden the new iPods came out, and you're like, whoa, I don't have even enough of these songs to put on here. So,
and being in the tech world that I am, I still, having studied, artificial intelligence and machine learning, I still can't get my Bluetooth to seamlessly switch between my computer, my truck, and my phone. Like, if we can't figure out the simplicity of that so that it's a flawless transition, how are we ever going to get to self-driving cars? I get it, we're there now, but yeah, I don't know. When do we trust these things?
Well, there's probably a 12-year-old that can figure it out for you somewhere.
That's true. Yeah, the same as pretty soon I'll be turning to Dad to try and help me solve my IT problems. The lots happening within the community. There's a community wellness advocate, Lawrence. So folks within the Métis Nation of Alberta, if you're a little unsure as to how to navigate some of healthcare, reach out to that community wellness advocate. They're going to help open different opportunities for you to have conversation, whether it's financial, whether it's mental health, whether it's how are we dealing and getting through the pandemic, because that's something that's coming up as well on May 18th. So folks, make sure you go to albertametis.com. Reflecting on the pandemic, there's coping strategies. This has been over 2 years. So for everybody, it's a different journey. It's a different story. So make sure you look into some of these. There's new quitting tobacco regimens that are coming up. I know in our region, Kyla Prakash, who manages to connect people to get them off tobacco, mental wellness programs. I think in Region 3, Kristen Acuna, who's in charge of our youth, has jigging lessons coming up. Mm-hmm. Lawrence, I would imagine you should probably be teaching those.
No, I'm not a jigger. But I think that Acuna family has a lot of jiggers in it. I think since they were kids. And this goes back to like Ephraim Ephraim's time and Marlene's time, right? So
there must be a pretty easy transition between ballet and jigging, isn't there? Is it just a different step?
Well, I mean, you'd have to learn all of them. I mean, it's just like any dance form. You have to take the time to learn it and master it. So, and I think for me, I would probably want to make sure that I knew what I was doing before I presented myself. But I know the basics. Like if people ask me, oh, you do the basic stuff, I can certainly do that.
I guess it's a lot of muscle memory, like you're saying. But also, in your case, you're kind of held to a higher standard of dance because of your long tenure. And I guess, if all of a sudden you weren't looking that great up there, I would be the first person to throw something at you or throw a bunch of bananas at you.
Yeah, exactly. I think you just become, a target for a lot of people. And
I'm hoping each one of those banana peels in front of you is just another challenge for you to try and dance around.
Yeah, but I mean, we are in that process of starting, a jigging group here. So, we all hands on for Kristen and Acuna to do that. So,
and it's fun, and it's always celebrated at all of the local, the regional, and definitely all of our provincial events. It's always beautiful, especially when the kids come out and they're all decked out in their little outfits and they do the jigging competitions. I mean, we have some fabulous people within the Métis community who are experts at the dancing around the sash and such. So, baby formula, Lawrence. Now, you're a little bit past that, but it seems as though this is the new supply chain panic down in the U.S. that, I mean, I don't know, I guess, enough about the process, but you wouldn't think it'd be hard to make more of this. Is just specialized stuff that's out there that people are having trouble getting. But, I'm hoping this is not another one of these rush where everybody's in a panic to go out and buy as much as they can.
I really don't know. I mean, when we were putting the kids on it, it was kind of an ease for us because, we had twins, right?
Yeah.
But it was, we had a baby formula machine. It's just like a Breva machine. You just put your bottle there and it mixes everything in it and you just grab it and go, right? But I always felt awkward, like every time I'd read the labels, it's like, is this safe for kids? Like you didn't really know, right? And maybe that's a part of it. Maybe they discovered things. Or maybe they're getting the goods from Russia. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because, most of us all of a sudden seem to start to pay more attention to what the ingredients are. And if you just find that one product out there that you all of a sudden have some kind of a concern with, and you've chosen the thing that you're going to stick with, you're going to drive. There's couples, you're reading about, they're driving 4 hours to try to get to cities that may have some of the formula. Maybe it's that their children really, really like, and or they feel comfortable with. So folks, make sure you do your part of, this is your opportunity. Get out there, make sure that you have enough for a bit of, to manage your family for a while, but also recognize that there's other families out there that are going to be looking for the same product. Yeah.
Costco was the best deal for formula that we found anywhere. You can get the Costco formula that'll last you a while.
And one other thing I wanted to bring up too is youth yoga. There's wellness programs starting Wednesdays from 4 to 5. So for when you've got those kids just past the infant age, get them right into yoga. Maybe that's something I should have started earlier because it would have made the stretching so much easier for me if I had really concentrated. But yeah, there's youth yoga, and I'm sure it's also part of the mental health healing, so that we allow as the kids continue to integrate back into going to school, back into their sports, they start to feel a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, anxiety, all those conditions will always be there. It's how you manage it, right? And if you can start managing at an early age and learn the basics and move through it.
Did they teach breathing when
absolutely.
you were in ballet school? Like, was that a strong
huge part
priority?
Of it, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, if there's no breath management, you're doing active sports, it'll affect your whole body, like your muscles, your tendons, everything, right? So you have to learn to relax at those key times, right? And for me, it was always the anticipation of getting on stage. Like those were the high anxiety times. Once I'm on it, it's fine, right? Everything just goes away. But it's those times where you start to tense up, clam up, like when situations would happen right before you're about to get on.
Yeah. And I guess the same for me on the fire department. As soon as the alarm rings and you hear that noise and you've got 20 seconds to be on the truck, you have 20 seconds to have your gear on, you have 20 seconds and you're rolling down the road. That is when I really focus on breathing. I take one big breath and I hold it and then I slow it out. And I never want everybody else to see that I'm doing it, but I'm doing it very consciously and subconsciously as I'm preparing for what my next steps are going to be. But it is a necessity. And maybe this is one of these things we have to really focus on teaching our youth, teaching everybody is that as we navigate and come through the pandemic and everybody finds their different levels of comfort, breathing is one of those things that will help control that anxiety.
Absolutely.
So Lawrence, some of the events that are coming up in the June, July, and August, I was recently invited to play up at Metis Fest. I think that's June 25th, so I'm pretty excited about that. Part of the Memphis and the Grande will be headed up. Take us through some of the other events that are happening here. We have the Mixer that's coming up on the 19th here in Calgary, May 19th. So folks, make sure you reach out to our office.
Yeah, Aboriginal Awareness Week always follows June 21st, that sort of week. So the 23rd is our golf tournament, and then we fly up to Métis Crossing to be there. And then also there's events around town, and I think we have an Aboriginal Awareness Week powwow and all these other things that are happening here in Calgary. So, reach out to these groups because they always do things during that week, and try to go out with your family and kind of visit, either Métis or First Nations or even Inuit things that are happening. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about it, and it's just a lot of planning for it too. So,
yeah. And folks, make sure you follow the websites. Make sure you go to Métis3.org, look for some of the events that are happening. Definitely connect with albertametis.com and, reach out to us here at the Squeaky Wheel. Lawrence and that's our goal, is to try and educate our community and our friends and our stakeholders and all of our relationships so that they're also aware of all the events that are going on. We do get a lot of industry participation. Well, I know we'll see a lot of that during our Stampede time. That's one of those areas where we really start to get opportunities to connect because everybody's looking for the chance to share in a fun, sort of safe way through all the different programs that are happening through, for example, Calgary. And then I know the exhibitions will be going on in Edmonton. So hopefully we can continue to create those. The annual General Assembly is coming up in August. And the motion to extend, Lawrence, let's talk a little bit about that. What's happening at the provincial level when it comes to how we're going to manage our elected officials?
Well, this year is our election year. That's going to happen in 4 months. But they're looking to extend it a year to hopefully get the self-government framework adopted and the Constitution. So there's a lot for that process, but it probably only take about a year. And what they're certainly concerned with is us having a 4-year term interrupted, within a year. We have a new structure and a new government, then we would probably have to have another election, right? So, I mean, not that I get that it is part of it, but for me, it's 4 years. I'd rather just be elected now and then work on a transition with the transition team that we just set up, and hopefully that will certainly help adjust for those remaining years, right? But I mean, that's the way I think, right? But to extend it for another year, yeah, definitely I can see the purpose in that for the Constitution. So I'm a little 50-50 on it, to be quite honest. But
I was always kind of surprised when you think to yourself, well, how couldn't these things be sorted out in 4 years? Well, you consider the idea of trying to connect a community by building a constitution. Yeah, actually, sometimes it does take longer. But yeah, when all of a sudden you start transitioning leaders in and out of roles and you start losing people who have the awareness, yeah, that can really slow the conversation down.
Yeah, and, citizen engagement, that's a part of it. And, during COVID, it was really hard for all of us to gather, And so it did leave a bit of an interruption in this whole thing.
Well, and then, Lawrence, let's jump on to the University of Florida right now has been working to grow plants in moon soil. Now, the reason I'm bringing up our plant conversation and the excitement behind something like that is I would imagine, I don't know if you're familiar with the term terraforming, but I think that's kind of came out of the movies from a long time ago, where you start to change the conditions of a planet so that humans can survive there. Now, I think it would take a lot of work, but if there's an opportunity to collect moon soil, put a city on the moon, and they could start to grow their own plants, there's an opportunity. Would the first plant that you grow there be considered an indigenous plant? Or does that become an indigenous plant? Because it obviously is not growing on the moon now. But you can see, after you answer that question, Lawrence, the red light's going to go on, the noise is going to ring, and we are going to talk about a local indigenous plant. So what's your thoughts? Should we start trying to grow the squeaky wheel cannabis? Is there such a thing on the moon? Do you think that's going to be possible? Maybe that's where business is headed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't smoke cannabis, but if I was about to make money off it, maybe. But, indigenous plants to me have been there for thousands of years. And this, is not an indigenous plant.
Yeah, that's true.
And to be quite honest, the black hole is getting closer to us for a reason, I don't think we screwed up down here on the Earth. I mean, what makes you think we're going to do better on the moon?
Yeah, well, I don't quite understand. I don't know why we should be focusing on protecting the environment down here than worrying about can we grow a couple of small plants.
I mean, they're building a resort. It's supposed to open up in space in 2023, right? So I think they should focus on that.
I actually didn't realize that was their intent. 2023, come on, there's no chance. Though I know we're getting closer, especially now that space tourism is starting to happen, and they're putting non-astronauts and just lay people into the ISS. If you have enough money, maybe they should leave it up there and just turn that into a space tourist port, rather than bringing people just up into the atmosphere. Maybe they should be taking them right up to space. People seem like they're willing to pay for it. Rather than dropping the ISS back to Earth, maybe let's leave it up there. So folks, if any of you are listening out there and any of you know an opportunity for the Squeaky Wheel to own any portion of space tourism at the International Space Station, let us know. Lawrence and I are always willing to invest. So Lawrence, the light is red. Leighton, send the signal. Let's talk an indigenous plant, Lawrence. What do you got for us this week?
Oh, yeah. So I got hazelnuts. It is traditionally called Packanack. So there's a picture here. Now the hazelnuts are commonly found in Alberta, mostly on hillsides and shady woods. Since nature is a way of caring for the creatures of the wood, tiny chipmunks make use of these for survival. And before you know it, they've gathered the best crop of the winter for their winter use. So if you intend to go gather some, you usually start in time, and these little jittery, nervous-like creatures will bury their food in piles near their gathering place. So chipmunks do that. And if you eat those, just like anything, if you open it up, it's just like a ball with a long stem, and you just kind of pull it apart, and there's the nut, and it looks exactly like a hazelnut, and they grow wild here in Alberta.
I've never actually gone looking for them, but I do. There's always that time of the year when Grandma would put out the bowl of nuts with that nutcracker. I think if anything, the nutcracker just gave you something to do for 2 hours rather than having to get into too much conversation.
Mm-hmm. But I grew up eating hazelnuts all the time, from the bush when I was a kid.
Oh, you just go pick them yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to have to go out on a nut study looking grab pickup trip together, Lawrence. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Oh, yeah. But then you got to get out of your truck and got to walk around in the bush.
That's right. Do you roast them, or do you just bang them open and eat them like that?
You eat them the way they are. Yeah, you just crack them in your mouth and just like a normal hazelnut. They're only really small, that's all.
Yeah. They are quite small, but they're definitely packed with a lot of flavor. Well, thank you. So, did you used to have to fight off a lot of squirrels?
No.
Is that where you learned some of your fighting techniques, was fighting off squirrels for the rest of the available nuts?
No, just all my little cousins. You just fought them all.
Actually, yeah, that probably happened a lot. And I imagine there was a few thrown at each other.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. We threw everything at each other.
That's how you learn to duck and weave and dodge. Lawrence, let's talk a little bit about Paddle Prairie. So up in northern Alberta, some of the settlement homes up there right now don't have available water to them. These about 800 people living in the Paddle Prairie Métis settlement state a local emergency. Apparently the water level and the snowmelt water in the 6 nearby rivers is at heights that they haven't seen for 50 years. Now, we've also been talking recently about the interlakes in Manitoba. Yeah, reading about, as I wanted to find out a little bit more of, the waters are almost on their way to receding, it sounds like, a little bit in Manitoba. And then I was unaware that we had flooding in northern Alberta.
Right. Well, this is flooding season, right? And we have to be careful all over Western Canada, right to Manitoba. But yeah, I mean, floods can affect so many different things, and you got to be extra careful. It's water versus water, right? But it's water versus infrastructure, and your infrastructure.
And when all of a sudden, you look around and there's water everywhere, but it's not the kind of water that you can drink.
No.
It starts to really affect. It is just an immediate state of local emergency.
Yeah, because your water facilities won't function. What keeps your water clean.
And run it by us again a little bit, the relationship between the settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Who governs who?
The Métis Settlements Agreement is with Alberta, and it recognizes those individuals as a sovereign people. So they have their own president, their own council, those type of things. But there are Métis Nation of Alberta members who live on the settlements that we represent. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of overlap and crossover there. But we don't certainly get into the politics or have the decision-making that happens from Métis settlements we have nothing to do with. And just like they don't have anything to do with ours. So we kind of we're aligned, but we're just sort of separate.
But if anybody just decided, any Métis family decided, hey, I'm going to go live in the settlements.
Yeah.
They connect with that community, and then they become part of a relationship with.
There's an application process, to get a piece of a parcel, right? And I don't know what that is, but we have members who sometimes sit on our provincial council who are members who live on the settlement. So that's
right.
But I think there is an application process for sure.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Papal visit in July. So it sounds like the Pope may not be going to visit Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's going to visit Manitoba. It seems like there's a little bit, but it sounds like the delegation is coming.
Yeah, and they're coming to Alberta.
Yeah. So has it been decided where they're planning on going? Does that become part of the privileged conversation you get, or is it just more that they're aware now?
Well, I think when this comes out, people might be more aware, but I think we're hoping Lac St. Anne, because that's, for First Nations and Métis, that was our gathering spot, and the healing pieces of the lake is probably ideal for the church to come and visit. But I mean, my mom even remembers going to Lac St. Anne when she was a kid, right? So it's been going on for quite a while.
Well, and I remember having gone to visit it with my dad one time. Can't remember more, but yeah, very, when I was that young, it was, well, this is a real strong place of Métis healing. What? I think I was probably just staring at my iPod and had no interest in the things that were happening around me. But yes, I'd love to go back there and visit.
Yeah, so if anybody doesn't know, it's sort of west of Edmonton, closer to St. Albert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's where I spent a lot of time growing up. So do you think by the time the Pope comes here, Lawrence, both you and him, and potentially I, will have seen Tom Cruise's new Top Gun Maverick?
I don't know. I watched a trailer. I just can't get into it. I don't know what it is.
Well, you were probably a big fan of the volleyball scenes. I mean, those were the coolest guys in the world. There was definitely an odd energy that seemed to happen when that first movie came out, and there was a question of that it seemed very, very charged.
Yeah.
But I mean, these were still Top Gun pilots. The energy, this driven passion, this competition. You know, I've seen a few clips of the trailers, and it looks like these are real planes that are flying around. I don't know. I'm pretty excited.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure the flying sequences in it are amazing, like well shot. Like I've seen stuff where those jets are just right above the ground, just flying and then going straight up in the air, right? And these guys are amazing pilots, like unbelievable. So they'll probably be showing off their skills.
I mean, other than seeing them in these kind of movies, I don't know if I've really ever seen the planes do too much activity around the world. Mm-hmm. It's these are super highly skilled stars of the sky. It's just nowadays with new technologies, and our thoughts and prayers being with the people of Ukraine, but you rarely hear too much about where jets are involved. But maybe there's a lot more action that's happening up there, or maybe they're just part of the détente. Maybe they're part of the protection strategies that nations have. Maybe you need to have them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, flight school is flight school. When I was, we always go to Coronado Beach if we ever go to San Diego and hang out there.
Yeah.
And you see the military around that little town, right? Just a little island. And then you see those fighter jets coming in every once in a while, right? So they practice almost daily. Every hour there's a jet in the air.
And close to that area is the outdoor image of the bar that was used in Top Gun.
That's right.
Where the guys go in and do all the singing and meet the ladies. I've stood outside that place. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And then the volleyball scenes, and all that.
Yeah, all happening. Yeah, so cool. Happening all over. Right now in San Diego, there was a new calf born, a giraffe calf, she's 5'11" right now, wearing a new orthotic. So one of her legs seemingly was bowing the wrong way, and she wouldn't be able to nurse. She was going to struggle. So they've built an orthotic that's constantly being evolved in order to allow her to walk. So I always thought that was just kind of a neat story. And then Lawrence, let's close out a little bit on the talk of Oilers Flames. By the time this is aired, we may know, but here are two of our favorite teams. Well, you're more of a Habs guy, but thank goodness they're not in. That are headed in our province, in our beautiful province of Alberta, going to Game 7s.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that's more exciting. Hence the reason I essentially wrote my song Game 7 Man. There's nothing more exciting than that. And if both of these teams were to win, it would bring the competition here to Alberta. I'm not trying to think that far. I am simply hoping each team does well, plays well. I would love to see them win, but I'm not thinking so far ahead that they're already going to be potentially in competition with each other. But this is an exciting time in sport right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get to the second and third round, or at least the third round. If we can get there, then NBC Sports has to come, and then they got to talk about Canada, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, I mean, they always screw things up, and they're probably going, COVID restrictions are probably just, oh no, please don't win, right? Please don't get to the next round.
Yeah, that's probably Gary Bettman saying that as well, because it just creates nothing but much more of a headache.
Well, he'll get stuck in the elevator again, right? So that's a problem.
That's right, at the Saddle Dome, which they probably did that just so that he finally is forced to make the statement that, you know what, it is time to revisit how we're going to.
Oh, no, I've been in that elevator. So have you. I think you had an event in that private suite there. That elevator is not the greatest one.
It's a bit rickety. There's always a bit of fear. So, folks, thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing Lawrence and I to have and share this Indigenous conversation and the humor that we have with you. We do our best to try and bring the fun conversation, positive forward conversation. We often try to talk about things that people may find are challenging topics. Folks, we're learning right along with you. And if you ever want to bring anything to our attention, if there's anything that's concerned that you've heard us talk about, then you're always welcome to email Lawrence or Ross at thesqueakywheel.ca. Connect with us. Folks, make sure you click that subscribe button. It really means a lot to us. Follow us on our social medias and share the conversation as we want to share our time with you. So from all of us here, from behind the scenes at the Squeaky Wheel, keep the wheel squeaking, folks. Get out there and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy connection.